In this general characters of algae, we are going to study their occurrence, then their morphological characters, then their nutritional characters, what nutrition they require, then their structure, then their reproduction, their classification, and their importance to our life. So, first point in this, these algae, they are there are two types of algae there, multicellular as well as unicellular algae. And those unicellular algae, they are only observed under the microscope, simple compound microscope, through which we can easily observe these algae. And such algae we called it as a unicellular algae. They are single cell algae. But some algae they are also multicellular algae. They are showing leafy branching attached to the solid substrates by root-like structures, and through which they can attach to the solid substrate of that place. And so there are two types of algae are there. Those which are having single cells, such algae we called it as unicellular algae. And those algae which are having multi-cells, means there are multi-cells are there. So because of this multi-cell appearance, we are clearly visible to observe these algae on the water. And these multicellular algae, they are having leafy like structures. They are also having branching there. They are also able to attach to the solid substrate by using root-like structures. And these algae, they are present universally. They are also present in aquatic environment. Some algae, they are also present in terrestrial regions, means in land, in subterranean algae. Those algae which are present in water, such algae we call it as aquatic algae. While those algae which are present on the land surfaces, such algae we call them as a terrestrial algae or subterranean algae. And all of these algae, they are having common factor is that all these algae, they are carrying chlorophyll content in them. So because of that presence of this chlorophyll content, these algae is able to carry out the photosynthesis process. We can differentiate these algae with other plants. We can differentiate these algae from plants because these algae, they are having simple reproductive structures for sexual reproduction, while these plants, they are having complex structures, that is androecium, gynoecium. These are the complex structures. But in case of algae, there are simple structures of sexual reproductive organs are there. Now you can see the examples. Some of the algae are there which are having unicellular gametes. Single cell act as a gamete, functions as a gamete. Now in some algae, they are also able to produce flagellated spores. Means single cells get separated, they are having flagellas and they act as a gametes, and through it they can reproduce. Some of the algae, they are also non-motile, means they don't have any kind of flagellas on their surface. Because of that, they are not capable of moving, showing movement. And such algal spores, they are produced in sporangia. So there are two types of reproductive form are there. We can easily differentiate these algae from the green plants, because in case of green plants there are complex structures are there, while in case of algae there are simple reproductive structures are there. And there is also in these algae you are able to see differentiation in their size, in their habitat, in their reproductive processes. So it is a heterogeneous group. Means you can observe variation in size in these algae. Some of the algae they are small size. To observe this small size of algae we require microscope. But some of the algae are also there which are multi-cells. So because of this multi-cell appearance, we can easily observe these algae on the water surfaces, on the water bodies. And the science which particularly studies this unique group of microorganisms, that algae, that science which studies this specifically these algae, they are called as, this group is called as, this science is called as phycology. So these algae, they are unicellular, multicellular. One common factor is there that both all the algae they carry the chlorophyll content, and because of this presence of this chlorophyll content, these algae they are capable of synthesizing their own food. Now in this first point we are going to study is their occurrence. Now in nature many thousands of algae they are present. Many thousands of algal species are there. There are few places on the earth where some kind of algae they are not seen, like Antarctica. This is a place where there is a tremendous amount of ice is there. In these places you are not able to observe any kind of algae there. So there are few places where we cannot find any kind of algae, but these algae they are present in great abundance in ocean, seas, salt lakes, fresh waters, ponds, streams. So wherever the water bodies are there, these algae they can be present there. They can grow there. Similarly, these algae they are also found on damp soil, on the rocks, on the stones, on the tree bark, and as well as on the plants and animals. So these algae they are present everywhere, but some places are there where these algae cannot be observed. But most commonly these algae they are found in ocean, seas, salt lakes, freshwater lakes, ponds and streams. These are the places where we can easily observe these algae. Now some aquatic form of algae they form the larger part of the free floating microscopic life in the water. And this type of algae they are called as planktons. These are the larger part of the oceans, seas, where this smaller size of algae it is present, and that smaller size of algae it is called as a plankton, which is a principal food for the aquatic animals such as larger whales, fishes. These fishes and whales they feed on these planktons. You can see this. These are the planktons where you can see this. All these are the planktons, and which are present. These are microscopic one. We cannot see this with open eyes, but these are present in tremendous amount in oceans and seas, and they become the food for the fishes, and fishes feed on these planktons. And these algae they are found in places where there is a sufficient light is there, moisture is there, simple nutrients are there. So these are the requirements, and wherever these requirements they are fulfilled, these algae they can grow there in tremendous amount. First requirement is the light, because they are photosynthetic. Without light they are not able to carry out the photosynthesis process. So first requirement is the light. Second requirement is the moisture. third requirement is the nutrients. Like the plants, they are also require nutrients. So whenever these three conditions they are satisfied, there these algae they can easily grow there. And some of the algae, when they are present in water in tremendous amount, they causes undesirable taste and odor. For example, Snorria. It is an algae which is present in ponds and lakes, and when it is present there, it degrades the quality of that water. Such water cannot be used for the drinking purpose. Because of this presence of this Snorria algae, the taste and odor of that water it is get lost. So these are the places you can see here. This is the small lake where you can observe the algae. You can observe the algae which are present on damp soil, and these are the algae which are present on the stones. So these are the locations where these algae there can be present there. Here moisture is there, nutrient is there, and light is there. So these three conditions they have been satisfied, and because of these three conditions they have been satisfied, these algae can easily grow there. Some of the algae they are also adapted to the moist soil, the bark of the tree, as well as the surface of the rocks. And when these algae they are present on the surface of the rocks, they carry out a process, important process. These algae degrade these stones and into smaller parts, and this decomposition of these stones make this decomposition of these stones get converted into smaller part of the sands. आणि अशा पद्धतीने सँड तयार होते. आणि सँड तयार होण्यासाठी महत्वाचं म्हणजे स्टोन्सवर जेव्हा अल्गी ग्रो होते तिथे अल्गी त्याचं डिकम्पोजिशन करते, आणि ते डिकम्पोजिशन झाल्यामुळे जे अल्गी जे स्मॉलर पार्टचे जे वाळू जे म्हणतो आपण ते वाळू तयार होते. Now when these algae they are present in heavy amount on the water bodies, they form the blankets or the mats, and such water cannot be used for the recreational purposes. We cannot use such algae, such water where these algae are present in the larger amount. And because of the presence of these algae in the form of mat or in the form of blanket on the water bodies, they carry out, it acts as a barrier. And because of this barrier, oxygen it is not able to penetrate that water, which also prevent the photosynthesis. Because of the presence of this mat, it also prevents the photosynthesis, which is excluding the light from the deeper water. And because of these two conditions, this blanket it avoids the penetration of oxygen into the water bodies. This fish gets suffocates. Fish and marine animals they get suffocates because these fishes and these animals they require oxygen which is dissolved in that water body. But because of the presence of this blanket on the surface of this water, this oxygen it is not able to penetrate the water, and because of this there is no photosynthesis occur, and it also causes suffocation to the marine animals and the fishes. And when these algae they are dispersed, means they are present in a scarce form, these algae increases the oxygen concentration of that water. How this increase the concentration of water? Because this photosynthesis process, they take the carbon dioxide and releases the oxygen. When this process happens, when these algae they are present in dispersed form, म्हणजे इकडे तिकडे एकदम पूर्ण ब्लँकेट न फॉर्म करता जर अल्गी त्या वॉटर बॉडी जर असेल तर तिथे ते त्या वॉटर बॉडीचं ऑक्सिजन कंटेंट वाढवण्याचं काम ही अल्गी करत असते. पण जेव्हा ब्लँकेट स्वरूपामध्ये असेल तेव्हा ती ऑक्सिजनला सुद्धा पेनिट्रेट होऊ देत नाही, फोटोसिंथेसिस सुद्धा होऊ देत नाही, आणि त्यामुळे मराईन ॲनिमल्स अँड फिश जे असतात त्यांना सफोकेशन होतं, ऑक्सिजन भेटत नाही. प्रॉपर ऑक्सिजन भेटायला पाहिजे तो भेटत नाही. कशामुळं? जेव्हा अल्गी ही ब्लँकेट स्वरूपामध्ये तिथे ग्रो होत असेल त्यावेळेस. Now, these algae also they can be used to remove the hardness of the water, reduce the hardness of the water, remove the salts of the water. Some of the algae they can be used to reduce the hardness of the water and the salts of the water. Now, some of the algae they are also present as endophytes, means they are present inside the other living organisms. They are not free, but they live in some other organisms. Such algae they are widespread in protozoa, mollusks, sponge, and corals. These are the other animals where these algae they are present as endophytes. Inside these animals, these algae are there. Inside the protozoa, there is a presence of these algae. Inside the mollusks, in the sponge and the corals which are present at the bottom of the ocean. Here you can observe these algae there. The next point in this general character, it is the morphology. These algae they are having wide range of sizes and the shapes. Many species of algae they are present as a single cells, and such algae we call it as unicellular algae. The shape of this unicellular algae, it may be spherical, it may be rod shaped, or it may be club shaped, or it may be spindle shaped. Such shapes, spherical, rod, club shape, and spindle shapes, such algae they are observed only in unicellular algae. But some of the algae they are also there which are multicellular, and they appear every conceivable form, shape, and degree of the complexity. And these multicellular algae, they form the membranous colonies. They form the filamentous group, which may be singly or it may be present in the clusters form. They may be having branching or unbranching. They may have tube-like structures. And when these multicellular algae they are present in groups, we call them as colonies. And these colonies they are nothing but the simple aggregation of single cells, and which are identical cells. And these cells, after division, after mitotic division, they remain attached and they form the multicellular colony of that algae. And some of the algae they are also having different kinds of structures here. There. Some of the algae they are having complex structures like that of higher plants, means like the stem of the plants. Some of the algae they may have stem-like structure, like the roots of the plants. They may have root-like structures in the algae also, in multicellular algae, not in the unicellular algae. You can see here, this is the unicellular algae, which we call it as a chlamydomonas. It is a single cell algae, but some of the algae they are present in the group. You can see here. This is the colonies of the algae, and these colonies of the algae they are having identical cells. They are not of different types of cells are there. They are having similar types of cells, similar identical types of cells are there. This is the colony of volvox. it is a type of algae which are forming the colonies. After the division, they remain attached to one another, and so because of that, they are forming the colonies. You can see here, this is a colony of volvox. This is also another algae, which is a unicellular algae. We called it as a euglena. This is the algae, which is euglena, which is a unicellular algae. You can see here, this is a filamentous type of algae. We call it as a spirogyra. You have studied this in 12th. This is the another type of algae which is having red pigment in it, and this is the gracilaria algae. This is the geladium algae, and this is another type of phytoplanktons. These are the planktons. So here, in case of algae, you are able to see the variation in the size as well as in the shapes. Some of the algae, they are multicellular, they are forming the colonies, but some of the algae, they are present only in a single cell form. So these two algae, this geladium and glaciaria, these are the algae which are important to us because we use this algal preparation in our lab, that is agar agar. These are the algae from where we extract the agar agar and use as a solidifying agent in our lab. This algal cell, as you know that this algae, it is a eukaryotic cell, means they are having well defined nucleus. So because of that, we called it as a eukaryotic cells. In the most species of this algae, the cell wall, it is thin and rigid. But in case of diatomous algae, the cell wall of these diatoms, they are impregnated with silica. त्या डायटम्सच्या सेल वॉल मध्ये तुम्हाला सिलिका जे आहे, वाळूचे कण जे असतात तसे तसे तुम्हाला त्या सेल वॉल मध्ये दिसून येतील. And because of that, the cell wall of this diatoms, they are very thick and very rigid. And so because of this presence of the silica in the cell wall, they form the intricate designs. काही कलाकृती सारखं स्ट्रक्चर तुम्हाला दिसून येईल त्याच्यामध्ये. इथे दिसते तुम्हाला. These structures, these all the structures, they are of deposition of the silica, and because of the deposition, you can observe this type of structure there. Some of the algae, they are motile. For example, euglena. This euglena algae, it is having flexible cell membrane, which is called as periplast. And the cell wall of many of the algae, they are also surrounded by a flexible gelatinous outer matrix, which is secreted through the cell wall, and which is resembles to that of bacterial capsule. You can observe this gelatinous, this type structure, which is present around that colony, and they are forming the protective layer surrounding that. And this algae, it contains a well developed nucleus. So it is in this algae, there is presence of nuclear membrane is there, nucleolus is there, and inside this nuclear membrane, or that there is a presence of the genetic material of these algae. And along with these structures, these algae, they are also having other inclusions such as starch grains, oil droplets, vacuoles, and the pigments which are present in the algae, they are and the pigments which are observed in these algae, they are kept in a organelle, and that organelle we called it as a chloroplast. All the pigments, that chlorophyll pigment, and other carotenoid, xanthophyll pigments, they are totally bound in a organelle, and in these organelle there is a presence of this pigment. That organelle we called it as a chloroplast. And these chloroplasts, they are also they are seen in different positions in different part of the algal cell. When this chloroplast it is present nearer to the cell wall of that algae, which we call that type of arrangement of this chloroplast, it is called as a parietal type of chloroplast. When the chloroplast it is present at the center of the cytoplasm, we call it as an asteroidal type of chloroplast. In some of the algae, there may be one, two, or many chloroplasts are there, and these chloroplasts may be shown ribbon-like structure, bar-like structure, net-like structure. In some form, they form a discrete disc-like structure like that of green plants. So you can also observe variation in this chloroplast is also there. क्लोरोप्लास्ट मध्ये सुद्धा तुम्हाला व्हॅरिएशन दिसून येईल. काही अल्गल सेल मध्ये एक एक क्लोरोप्लास्ट असेल, काही मध्ये दोन असतील, काही मध्ये त्याच्यापेक्षा जास्त असतील. आणि क्लोरोप्लास्टच्या स्ट्रक्चर्स मध्ये सुद्धा तुम्हाला व्हॅरिएशन दिसून येईल. जर तुम्ही स्पायरोगायरा पाहिलं तर स्पायरोगायरा मध्ये रिबिन लाईक क्लोरोप्लास्ट स्ट्रक्चर आहे. प्लांट्स मध्ये ग्रीन प्लांट्स जे आहेत, हायर प्लांट्स आहेत, त्याच्यामध्ये डिस्क लाईक क्लोरोप्लास्ट आहे. काही अल्गीमध्ये बार लाईक आहे, काही अल्गीमध्ये net like chloroplast आहे. Okay, so this is the structure of the algal cell. Now one of the most important aspect which is there in the algae, it is the presence of the pigment. Now in case of algae, all the pigment it is present in a specialized organelle that we called it as a chloroplast. And the chloroplast of the different divisions of an algae containing the similar pigments, they are also having the similar thylakoid arrangement also there. Now the chloroplast ultrastructure, pigment chemistry, they have been used. Okay, the chloroplast ultrastructure and the pigment chemistry, they have been used as a marker to find out the algal phylogeny. इव्होल्युशनचा जर स्टडी केला, अल्गीचा इव्होल्युशनचा जर स्टडी करायचा असेल, आपल्याला दोन कॅरेक्टर्सचा महत्वाचा रोल आहे. पहिला आहे त्याचं अल्ट्रास्ट्रक्चर क्लोरोप्लास्टचं, कशी प्रकारचं क्लोरोप्लास्टचं अरेंजमेंट आहे. नंतर त्याच्यामध्ये पिगमेंट, कोणत्या प्रकारचे पिगमेंट्स आहेत, हे दोन्ही वापरले जातात अल्गलची फायलोजेनी शोधण्यासाठी. नाउ इन केस ऑफ algae, some of the algae they are also colorless algae are also there. Some algae they are also colorless, where there is no kind of pigment is there, nothing, there is no kind of pigment is there. For example, Euglionophycophyta, this is a genus. In this genus, some of the species they are of colorless type, Pyrophycophyta and Chlorophycophyta. These are the three genus. In these three genus, some of the algae they are of colorless. They are of colorless type. So because of this colorless nature, they have been considered as a protozoa, but they are not there. They are not there. Now, in case of algae, there are three kinds of photosynthetic pigments they have been observed. First is the chlorophyll. Second pigment is a carotenoid. Third pigment it is a piloproteins, or we call it as a phycobalium. Except the colorless algae, all the algae possesses the chloroplast, and these pigments, first three kinds of pigments they have been observed in the algae: chlorophyll, carotenoids, below proteins, or we call it as a phycobilins. Now first we see about the chlorophyll pigment. Here in case of algae, five types of chlorophyll pigments they have been observed: chlorophyll A, B, C, D and E. This chlorophyll A pigment, it is observed in all the types of algae, and it is playing a very important role in these all the algae because they are required in order to carry out the photosynthesis process. Chlorophyll B pigment is commonly found in two divisions of the algae: Eugleonophycophyta and Chlorophycophyta. In these two types of divisions, in these two divisions, chlorophyll B pigment it is also present with chlorophyll A pigment. Chlorophyll C pigment it is wide in spread. It is present in the members of Xanthophycophyta, Basilarophycophyta, Chrysophycophyta, Pyrophycophyta, Cryptophycophyta, and Phaeophycophyta. These are the divisions where this chlorophyll C pigment it is present in tremendous amount with chlorophyll A pigment. Because chlorophyll A pigment it is present in all the types of algae except the colorless. Chlorophyll D pigment it is most prominently observed in Rhodophycophyta. This is the division of the algae where this chlorophyll D pigment it is prominent there. Chlorophyll E pigment it is rare, but it is observed in two genera of Xanthophycophyta, that is Tribanoera, and the zoospores of Vaucaria. These are the two genus of this Xanthophycophyta where this chlorophyll E pigment it is also there along with chlorophyll A pigment. Now in case of this chloroplast, the carotenoids which is present in this algae, these carotenoids are of two types: carotene and xanthophytes. These carotenes they are nothing but the linear unsaturated hydrocarbons, while xanthophytes they are oxygenated derivatives of these linear unsaturated hydrocarbons. These are also present in the chloroplast along with chlorophyll pigments. This carotenoid pigment it is also present in the algae, and in these carotenoids there are two types: carotene and xanthophytes. Carotenes they are nothing but the linear unsaturated hydrocarbons, while xanthophytes they are the oxygenated derivatives of linear unsaturated hydrocarbons. The another pigment which is present in algae along with this chlorophyll and carotenoid it is the below protein. And this below protein it is a water soluble pigment, while chlorophyll and carotenoids they are lipid soluble. They are not soluble in water. They can be mixed with void. They are soluble in void but not in water. These below proteins they are also called as phycobilins, and these phycobilins they are pigment protein complex, and they are observed only in two algal divisions: Rhodophycophyta and Cryptophycophyta. In these two divisions this phycobilin it is present there. It is a pigment which is present in these two algal divisions, not in other. And now these phycobilins they are of two types: phycocyanin and phycoerythrin. Now the concentration of these two pigments in these two divisions it depends upon the various factors. It depends upon the environmental condition. whether phycocyanin is in major amount or phycoerythrin it is major amount. It is dependent upon the environmental condition. तिथे एन्व्हायरमेंटची कंडिशन कशी आहे त्यानुसार या दोन्ही पिगमेंटचं कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन त्या दोन डिव्हिजन मध्ये डिपेंडेंट आहे. जसं एन्व्हायरमेंट असेल त्यानुसार हे फायकोसायनिन अँड फायकोइरिथ्रिनचं कॉन्सन्ट्रेशन तुम्हाला ह्या दोन अल्गीज मध्ये यूज वापरलेलं दिसून येईल. Here this pigment quantification it is not used in order to classify the algae. It is not used to classify the algae. Algaeचं क्लासिफिकेशन करण्यासाठी आपण पिगमेंट ची अमाउंट आपण कधीही वापरत नाही. त्या अल्गीचे क्लासिफिकेशन करण्यासाठी आपण अल्गीचा कलर पिगमेंटचा कलर वापरतो, पण त्याचा अमाउंट मेजर केलेला अमाउंट आपण कधीही टेक्झॉनॉमी मध्ये क्लासिफिकेशन करण्यासाठी अल्गीचं वापरत नाही. मेजरली अल्गीचं क्लासिफिकेशन हे त्याच्या पिगमेंट्सच्या कलरवरून करतो, पण त्याच्या अमाउंटवरून नाही. So this is all about the pigments which are present in the algae. And the chlorophyll A pigment, it is present all over the algae because this is necessary for their photosynthesis process. And along with this chlorophyll A pigment, rest of the other pigments are also there. The next point in this general character, it is the reproduction. How these algae they are reproduced. You can simply observe when there is rainy season is there, running water is there is no algae you can observe. But after few days of time, you are able to observe different kinds of algae on that water body. From where these algae are arrived there? पावसाळा आला की आपण बघतो की पावसाळ्याचं पाणी म्हणजे नदीमध्ये पाणी जर फ्लो होत असेल तर तुम्हाला algae दिसतच नाही, कुठेच दिसत नाही. पण काही कालावधी नंतर तुम्हाला तिथे algae दिसते. ही algae आली कुठून? All the algae which are grown there, they are there because of this reproduction. Here in case of algae, these algae may be reproduced by asexual reproduction or they may be reproduced by sexual reproduction. In some of the algae, there may be presence of asexual reproduction only. In some of the algae, there may be presence of sexual reproduction is only. But some of the algae are also there, which can use both the process, asexual reproduction as well as sexual reproduction. But some algae, they can have sexual reproduction. In some algae, there may be presence of asexual reproduction. But in case of some complex algae, there is both the types of reproduction is also there, available there. So first we see about this asexual reproduction. In case of asexual reproduction in algae, it includes pure vegetative type of cell division like that of the bacteria. You know that our bacterial cell, it reproduces by binary fission. Like that, in case of algae, such vegetative type of cell division is also observed there. A new algal colony or filament which is broken from the colony, start the new type of algae. समजा algaeचा एखादा फिलामेंट जर ब्रेक झालेला असेल तर तो ब्रेक झालेला फिलामेंट नवीन algaeचं रूपांतर तयार करू शकतो, नवीन algae मध्ये रूपांतरित होऊ शकतो. अल्गल कॉलनीचं सुद्धा समजा स्मॉल फ्रॅगमेंट जर ब्रेक झालेला असेल ओल्डर algae पासून, तर तो नवीन algaeच्या कॉलनीमध्ये डेव्हलप होऊ शकतो. काही algae मध्ये this asexual reproduction it is very complex, where there is a production of unicellular spores. Simply breaking from the older algae and giving into new type of algae, it is called as a vegetative propagation. Like that of a bacterial binary fission, it is a vegetative propagation. But in some of the algae, they reproduce by producing spores, unicellular spores. And these spores, they are produced by some of the aquatic algae. Whenever these unicellular spores, they are produced by these algae for the asexual reproduction in the aquatic form of algae, they are having flagella and they are motile. And these spores, which are produced by this aquatic form of algae, they are called as zoospores. And these zoospores, they are used by these algae for the asexual reproduction. But some of the algae, particularly those algae which are present in the soil, terrestrial type of algae, they produces non-motile spores. They are also called as aplanospores. These aplanospores, they can float in the air and it is spread from one location to the another location. Some of the aplanospores, they can develop into zoospores. They can be converted into zoospores. So, after a few days, when there is no running water in the water, that in a stream or lake, these spores deposit there and starts forming the new type of algal colony there. आपल्याला जी algae दिसत नाही पाऊस पडल्यानंतर, पण काही कालावधीनंतर तुम्हाला तिथे algae दिसायला लागते. मग ती algae आली कुठे? ती आली असेक्शुअल रिप्रोडक्टिव्ह स्ट्रक्चर्समुळे, जे की स्पोर्स तयार झालेले आहेत. ॲक्वॅटिक फॉर्म मधले जे algae असते ते झू स्पोर्स प्रोड्यूस करते आणि झू स्पोर्स तिथे डिपॉझिट झाले, लाईट, न्यूट्रिएंट, मॉइश्चर भेटलं, algaeची ग्रोथ सुरू होते. टेरिस्ट्रियल टाईपचे जे algae आहेत ते अप्लॅनोस्पोर्स किंवा नॉन मोटाईल स्पोर्स प्रोड्यूस करतात. They can be easily carried out by the air current from one location to the another location. So, this is the asexual reproduction which is observed in case of algae. You can see here. You can see here. This is the Spirogera. One fragment. This is this fragment of the Spirogera. It is broken, and this can begin into new form of algae. So these are the zoospores which are produced by the cladophora. It is algae. Zoospores. These are the aplanospores, and these are the zoospores which are produced in the algae, and through which new algae can grow there in such places where there is no Now the next type of reproduction in the algae, it is the sexual reproduction. Now all the forms of sexual reproduction, they are observed in the algae. It is a very simple process where there is a fusion of the sex cells, and these sex cells we called it as a gamete. These gametes they unites, and when there is a union of these two gametes, that is male and female gametes, there is a blending of the nuclear material occurs, and this mixing, the union of these gametes, they forms the zygote, and the zygotes, from that zygote new algae will be developed. Now, if the gametes they are having identical structure, similar structure, we cannot differentiate this cell structure, these structures of these gametes. Such type of reproduction it is called as isogamous type of reproduction. If the male and female gametes they are different in size and shape, we call it as a heterogamous type of reproduction. The larger form of algae they produce six cells. We call these six cells as male gamete and female gamete. The female gamete it is called as ovum. It is large in size and non-motile. The female gamete it is small in size and actively motile. We call this male gamete as a sperm cell. And when these cells, male gamete and female gamete, they fuse, and this type of reproduction we call this as a oogamous type of reproduction. You can see here. This is the isogamous type of reproduction because both of these gametes they are having similar structure. Similar structure is there. Anisogamous. There is we can easily differentiate male and female gamete there. This is the oogamous type of sexual reproduction which is observed in case of algae. Now these male and female gametes they are either produced on the same thalli or on the different thalli. Male gamete it may be produced on the same thallus of the algae or it may be produced on the different thallus of the algae. Like plants, you can observe that male and female gametes they are present in the same flower. Similar condition you can observe in case of algae. Sometimes this male and female gametes they are both these gametes they are produced on the same thallus. When they are produced on the same thallus, we call it as a bisexual or monoecious. And when these male and female gametes they are produced, they are developed on different plants, different thallus. We call it as a unisexual or dioecious thallus. So these algae they reproduce by these two ways in order to multiply. The next point in this general character is the classification. In order to classify these algae, 6 different types of characters they have been used. First character that is nature and properties of the pigments. Second character characteristic of reserve food material. Third character type and number, insertion and morphology of flagella. Fourth character chemistry and physical features of the cell wall. Fifth character morphological characteristics of cells and thalli. Sixth character life history, reproductive structures and methods of reproduction. So these 6 characters they have been used to classify the algae into different types. So by using these 6 characters, different algal divisions they have been classified. These algae are classified into different divisions. Rhodophycophyta, we call it as simply red algae. Xanthophycophyta, yellow green algae. Chrysophycophyta, golden algae. Phaeophycophyta, brown algae. Bacillariophycophyta, diatoms. Chlorophycophyta, green algae. Euglenophycophyta, euglenoids. Cryptophycophyta, cryptomonad. Pyrophycophyta, dinoflagellates. So these are the different divisions of the algae, and this classification it is based on the pigment of the algae which is present there. Which type of pigment is there? Now the last point in this general characters. What is the importance of this algae to us? First most importance of this algae is that now you know that our earth it is having 70% of the water. Our earth it is having near about 70% water and 30% earth soil. So the maximum amount of the carbon which is present in the nature it is fixed in this 70% of the water by using these algae. As we have seen that these phytoplanktons they are the unicellular microscopic algae which are present in the sea, it is acting as a food for the fishes, whales, and these algae they are the primary producers of organic matter in the ocean, and on these algae there is a dependence of other organisms also there. So the 70% of the water which is present here on the earth they are having different kinds of algae there, and these algae they are fixing the carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide which is fixed by this algae which is present in the water it is higher in amount than all the land flora of earth which is present on the soil. जेवढं कार्बन डायऑक्साईड आपल्या नेचरमध्ये आहे त्याच्यात मॅक्झिमम अमाऊंट कार्बन डायऑक्साईडचं फिक्स करण्याचं काम ह्या अल्गी करतात लँडपेक्षा, लँडवरले जे ग्रीन प्लांट्स आहेत त्याच्यापेक्षा. Phytoplankton जे आहेत they are the primary producers on which the fishes depends. Then some of the algae which are present in the soil they are playing very important role in stabilizing and improving the physical properties of the soil by aggregating the soil particles, mixing the organic matter with the soil. Now some of the algae in some countries they have been used as a fertilizer. Instead of chemical fertilizer they have been using this algae as a fertilizers. For example, large red brown seaweeds which are present in oceans they have been used by these countries as a fertilizer. They are collecting this algae, making the smaller part of that algae, and they have been used as a fertilizers then in some countries. Some of the most important products they have been extracted from the algae. Some, for example, alginic acid and its salts, They are obtained from the walls of brown algae. And this alginic acid, it is present 25% of the dry weight of this brown algae. And this alginic acid which is extracted from this brown algae, this algae includes microcystis, agarium, laminaria, ficus, ascophyllum. These are the brown algae from where this alginic acid it is used. And this alginic acid it is having a very important role in preparation of ice creams. The ice creams which are prepared in USA, the 50% of the ice cream which is prepared in the USA, it contains the alginates which is extracted from the algae. And this alginate, it gives this ice cream smooth consistency and eliminate the ice crystal formation there. It's because of this alginate which is present in this ice cream. There is a presence of smooth texture, and there is no ice crystal is also there in that ice cream. And some of the alginate material, they have been used by the dentist for the making the impressions of the teeth. दाताचा जो साचा असतो, डेंटल डॉक्टर जे असतात, दाताचा जे साचा जो बनवतात, साचा बनवण्यासाठी ते अल्जिनेटचा वापर करतात. तर एक्झॅक्ट दाताचा जो साचा आहे तो पूर्णपणे एक्झॅक्ट दात तशीच आपल्याला त्या साईजचेच दात आपल्याला त्यामुळे करता येतात. Diatomaceous earth, which is another form of algae, which is primarily used for the filters and filter ads. आपण घरामध्ये जे फिल्टर्स वापरतो त्या फिल्टर्स मध्ये सुद्धा तुम्हाला डायटोमेशियस अर्थ या अल्गीचे जे फिल्टर्स आहेत, ही जी अल्गी आहे, हे अल्गी आपण ॲज अ फिल्टर म्हणून सुद्धा वापरू शकतो. Now many species of the algae, they have been used by different countries as a food, and that particular algae which is used as a food is the red and brown algae. Most out of this, most important is the porphyra. It is the algae which is produced in the ocean. They have been used as a food in Japan, and from that porphyra algae a special food is produced there. That food is called as nori, and it is prepared by drying this porphyra algae on the sheets. Some of the products they have been also extracted from the algal cell wall, such as agar-agar, alginic acid, carrageenan, diatomaceous earth, which is used as a these are deposited over time in the freshwater and ocean. The agar-agar, which is used in microbiological laboratory, it is prepared from two species of algae, red algae, Giladium and Glacilaria. We are using in our laboratory as a this agar-agar as a solidifying agent. It is prepared from these two species of the algae. And this agar-agar, it is also having importance in the food industry also. It is playing a valuable role in manufacturing of processed cheese, mayonnaise, puddings, jellies, baking products, and canned goods. While in pharmaceutical industry, this agar-agar, it can be used as a carrier of drug. This agar-agar, it is also used in some lotions, ointments. So, as a solidifying agent, we are using in our lab. But this agar-agar, it is also having different roles